So this chapter was a very quick read. There wasn't really a whole lot going on. It was mostly for comedic effect, mostly for humor, and also playing on that kind of like primitive age superstition that people would have when it comes to crossing the ocean, as far as the Norse mythology goes, or whatever the mythology is that involves the sea monsters of the time. There's sea monsters in all these different kind of ancient philosophies and religions and whatnot. The thing that I'm going to take the positive aspects first. So let's take the positive aspects, is that I like that they explored this idea a little bit, because naturally you would have characters that would be very superstitious of what the world would entail outside of the known explored areas so far, as well as you have the theories of like maybe the earth is flat and we're going to fall off, that there is no land, that there would be some sort of some sort of moment where our ships would just crash and burn and be destroyed. And then Hill brings up the idea that she thinks that maybe the world is actually round, and that because there's a curvature that you would see when you look out into the horizon and everything. So she's kind of ahead of the game, discussing this with Thorfinn's child, which was a little, it was played for humor. It was supposed to be cute, but it was a little like, okay, for some reason Thorfinn's child is just incredibly smart for some reason. And then we get, of course, diving into the superstitions of what could potentially be beneath the sea. And the sea is something that, look, I'm not a sailor or anything. I haven't really been out on the sea that often in my life. But it is one of those kind of captivating, kind of mythological things just in itself, because it does seem so vast and so endless and is so deep, and does contain creatures of which we have no idea how to explain, especially at that time during this time period, of what could possibly be down there. I mean, you just look into like the endless darkness of what the ocean is. Actually, I think there's a line that Thors says to Thorfinn in the very first volume when he was a child, that says, don't look into the sea at night because it'll pull you in, because it is that captivating. So I do like the idea that they're playing on the superstition and sort of the fear of the unknown that the characters would have upon crossing the ocean. And we also get this creature called JORMUNGAND, which I had no idea what this creature was. I had to look it up. It is from Norse mythology. It is actually a child of Loki. He banged some sort of like monstrous woman creature. I don't know Norse mythology. Somebody that knows it a lot better than me can explain it in the comments below. But apparently there's this creature that's sort of lying in wait in order to destroy Midgard or wherever it needs to destroy. It's kind of like wrapping itself around. So supposedly there's this giant Jormungand creature out there, which is kind of cool, and Big Eyes supposedly sees it. Now, what Big Eyes sees looks a lot more like the Loch Ness Monster or something similar to that. I know there's probably a dinosaur that looks exactly like that of some sort, but the way that Yukimura draws it is actually pretty cool. Actually, the way that he draws both that and the sea monsters from the superstitions to begin with is really interesting, and it's cool to see him kind of tackle these creature designs, because he is kind of stuck in this world of realism, or as realistic as Vinland Saga is, and he hasn't really had the chance to kind of branch out and draw monsters and creatures or demons or anything that would be like more berserk-like, so it's kind of cool to see him do that, just to get that experience, and just kind of actually being able to see him showcase his skills rather than drawing human characters all the time. I don't think Vinland Saga is all of a sudden going to delve into the supernatural and then all of a sudden actually have legitimate sea monsters. But this chapter kind of presents Big Eyes seeing the Jormungand in a way where he's the only person that sees it. So I think it's sort of like up to our interpretations. Did he actually see a big creature, or did he just imagine things because of his own kind of fear and ideas of the ocean itself, and he kind of fell off and knocked himself out? So it's kind of like one of those things where it's like kind of playing with, I think he just wanted to give us something fun in the chapter. Like, I don't think it's going to come into play down the line. I don't think he's going to deal with these kind of sea creatures, and that's not going to be part of Vinland Saga at all. I think he was just giving us kind of like a fun little chapter that was just kind of to showcase, like, oh, maybe there is something more than meets the eye out there, and I don't think it's ever going to come into play, again, in my personal opinion. And then in the final shot, the final panel of this chapter, we see that the characters are arriving towards land, and supposedly it says in the next chapter they will be arriving on North American shores, on Vinland, to start the whole Vinland arc, or whatever they're going to do there. I'll say that, like I said, I feel like this chapter was just sort of like a fun little middle ground, little connecting the dots sort of chapter. Like, we have the characters sailing out, and then we didn't want to just jump all the way to that they're in Vinland, so we did a chapter on the boat where it's just sort of like the characters talking about the monsters that are in the sea, and what the earth could possibly be shaped like, and what does it entail, actually exploring further than what we've seen so far. The thing to me is that I feel like you could have done things on this boat trip. Not that I want another super long boat trip in a manga. Trust me, I've been through Berserk, I'm with Hunter x Hunter right now, I don't need another boat arc, that's not what I'm saying, but there could have been more drama happening within the boat. I know there is those characters that have smuggled weapons aboard, maybe we could have explored something with that, maybe, I don't know, more of Thorfinn's sort of inner monologue of what he's thinking about, what he's going to do when he actually gets to Vinland, because as I said in my last Vinland Saga review where I talked about the most recent chapters themselves haven't exactly kind of been up to par with the first 2 arcs of the series. And that's not to say that I dislike Vinland Saga now, it's not to say that I'm not excited about what's coming next, it's just sort of saying that right now I feel like it's kind of stagnating. I feel like it's kind of not hitting the pinnacle of where it was, and it sort of had a couple of missed opportunities in my opinion as far as I'm concerned. The final confrontation between Thorfinn and Floki, I wish there was a little bit more there. I'm still feeling unfulfilled with that, and so moving into this next sort of Vinland arc where that's all resolved and that's all done with, you know, and we're kind of far away from other characters like Thorkel and Canute and like a bunch of other characters that we're not going to see because we're literally across the ocean from them. So I'm really hoping that Vinland Saga can give us something good moving forward with this final like Vinland arc. I'm assuming it would be the final arc, and give us something like incredibly worthwhile, like incredibly profound like it did in the first 2 arcs, and really make Thorfinn, you know, put him to the test as far as his new philosophies go. How far can he be pushed? Because he's been pushed, but he's conveniently had that sort of like protagonist plot armor help him along, which is fine on occasion, but I feel like now's the time. Alright, he made it through this whole adventure of gathering the funds and making it to Vinland and whatnot. Now that he's actually here, let's really, really put him to the test. Let's put him through the ringer. As much as I want to see Thorfinn achieve his goals, what I want to see him even more is tested as hard as he can be tested. I want to see him pushed. That's what I want to see out of Thorfinn, and what he can do moving forward with this whole new philosophy that he has. So that's basically it, a really short review. There wasn't really too much to this chapter to discuss other than the couple of things that I mentioned before, but what did you think about Vinland Saga chapter 178, the newest chapter that just dropped, and what are you hoping to see when Thorfinn finally steps foot on North American soil? What do you want to see go down with the whole Vinland arc? Put all that in the comments below. I'll try to keep as up to date on this manga as I can, review the new chapters as they come out. Thank you as always for the support on these videos. I really do appreciate it. Give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and comment below because it does help out in the algorithm. Other than that, go ahead and subscribe if you're not already. You want to stick around and see some more reviews and other videos. Hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in Vinland.